There is a class of medications that has completely transformed how we think about weight loss. You have heard the names: Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Zepbound, and the numbers are staggering. By the end of 2025, more than 12 million people in the United States had been prescribed one of these drugs, and that number is growing rapidly, for good reason. They are remarkably effective at helping people lose weight. Clinical trials have shown that people on these medications lose an average of 15 to 20% of their body weight. That is a life-changing amount for many people. It improves blood sugar control, lowers blood pressure, reduces joint pain, and decreases the risk of heart disease, stroke, and certain cancers. Those benefits are real and they are well documented. But here is what the clinical trials also showed. A significant portion of the weight lost on these medications is not fat, it is muscle. And this is the part that gets far less attention than it deserves. Depending on the study, somewhere between 20 and 40% of the total weight lost on GLP-1 drugs comes from lean body mass, not fat. That means a person who loses 20 kilograms on these medications may be losing up to 8 kilograms of precious muscle tissue along with the fat. And muscle, as we discussed in a previous video on sarcopenia, is not just for lifting things and looking good. It is the largest metabolic organ in your body. It is the engine that drives your metabolism. It is the primary consumer of glucose in your bloodstream. It is your body's reserve of amino acids for healing and repair. And losing it has consequences that go far beyond the cosmetic. In this video, I want to walk through exactly what is happening inside your body when you take these medications. Why the muscle loss is a hidden cost that most people never hear about from their prescriber. And most importantly, what you can do to protect your muscle if you're taking a GLP-1 medication or considering one. Because the goal is not to lose weight at any cost. The goal is to lose fat and keep the tissue that keeps you strong, healthy, and independent as you age. Part 1. Before we get into the muscle loss question, we need to understand how these drugs actually work. Because the mechanism is important for understanding why the muscle loss happens, and it is not something you can figure out from the commercials. GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1, which is a natural hormone your body produces after you eat. Its job is to signal to your pancreas that it is time to release insulin. It also signals to your brain that you are full and slows down the rate at which your stomach empties its contents into your small intestine. Together, these effects lower your appetite, reduce how much you eat, and keep you feeling full for longer. The GLP-1 drugs are synthetic versions of this hormone that are engineered to last much longer in your system than the natural version. The natural hormone breaks down within minutes. These synthetic versions can last for days. So they essentially put your body into a state of constant fullness. Your appetite drops, you eat less, you feel satisfied with smaller portions, and as a result, you lose weight. That part works exactly as intended, and it is very effective. But there is a downstream consequence that is built into the mechanism itself. When you are eating significantly less food, you are also taking in significantly less protein. And protein is the raw material your body needs to maintain and repair muscle tissue. Your muscles are in a constant state of turnover. They are being broken down and rebuilt every single day. To rebuild them, your body needs a steady supply of amino acids from dietary protein. When your body is not getting enough protein from your diet, it has to get those amino acids from somewhere. And that somewhere is your own muscle tissue. Your body literally begins breaking down its own muscle to supply the amino acids it needs for essential functions like immune function, enzyme production, and tissue repair. This process is called muscle catabolism, and it is the hidden cost of rapid weight loss, whether it happens through medication, severe calorie restriction, or bariatric surgery. And here is the key point that most people never hear. The faster you lose weight, the more muscle you tend to lose along with it. The GLP-1 drugs induce weight loss that is often faster than what most people would achieve through diet and exercise alone. That speed is part of why they are so popular and why people stay on them. They see results quickly, but it's also part of why the muscle loss is more pronounced than with slower, more gradual weight loss. Your body does not have time to adapt and prioritize fat loss over muscle loss. It simply mobilizes whatever tissue is available, and muscle tissue is the most accessible reservoir of amino acids in the body. Part 2. So, how much muscle are we actually talking about? Let me walk through the numbers from the clinical research so you know exactly what the data says. In the landmark STEP trials for semaglutide, which is the active ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy, researchers measured body composition changes in the participants. They used DEXA scans, which are the gold standard for measuring the difference between fat mass and lean mass. What they found was that roughly 39% of the weight lost by participants came from lean body mass, which is primarily muscle. To put that in concrete terms, for every 10 kilograms a person lost, roughly 4 kilograms of it was muscle tissue. In the SURMOUNT trials for tirzepatide, which is the active ingredient in Mounjaro and Zepbound, the numbers were better but still significant. About 25% of the weight lost was lean mass, so 1 in every 4 kilograms lost was not fat, it was muscle. Now, some amount of lean mass loss is expected with any weight loss. When you carry less body weight, you simply do not need as much muscle to move that weight around. So a small reduction in muscle mass is normal and not necessarily a problem. But losing a quarter to nearly 40% of your total weight loss as muscle is not a small reduction. It is a significant loss that has real metabolic consequences for your future health. And here is where the data gets even more concerning. A study published in the Journal of Cachexia, Sarcopenia and Muscle in 2025 looked specifically at body composition changes in older adults taking GLP-1 medications. They found that adults over 60 lost a significantly higher proportion of lean mass compared to younger adults on the same medications. If you are over 60 and taking these drugs, you are losing a greater percentage of your weight as muscle than someone in their 30s would. The people who can least afford to lose muscle are the ones losing the most of it. This makes biological sense when you consider what we already know about aging and muscle. Older adults have lower baseline muscle mass to begin with. They also have higher levels of anabolic resistance, which is the reduced ability to build muscle in response to protein and exercise. Their bodies are already fighting against the natural drift of muscle loss, and the additional metabolic stress of rapid weight loss amplifies that problem significantly. Part 3. Now I want to pause here and address something directly because I do not want this video to be misinterpreted. This is not an argument against GLP-1 medications. These drugs are one of the most important medical advances in the last decade, and they are transforming the treatment of obesity and metabolic disease. They are helping people who have struggled with their weight for decades achieve results they could never get through diet and exercise alone. And the health benefits of significant weight loss are enormous and well documented. Improved blood sugar control, lower blood pressure, better cholesterol profiles, reduced joint pain, better sleep, and a significantly lower risk of heart disease, stroke, and certain cancers. All of these are real and life-changing for millions of people. But understanding the trade-off is how you use these medications intelligently rather than passively. And the trade-off is that rapid weight loss, even medically assisted weight loss, comes with a cost to your muscle mass. And that cost matters because muscle loss, especially in people over 50, has its own set of health consequences that mirror the very problems the weight loss is trying to solve. Lower metabolism, weaker bones, poorer blood sugar regulation, increased frailty, and a higher risk of falls and fractures. You don't want to trade one health problem for another. And this is where the conversation around these medications needs to be more complete. It is not enough to ask, how much weight are you losing? The more important question is, what kind of weight are you losing? And the answer to that question determines whether the weight loss is improving your long-term health or creating a new problem that will show up years later. There is a phenomenon that has been widely reported in the media called Ozempic face, the sagging, gaunt, or aged appearance that some people develop after rapid weight loss on these medications. And the common explanation is that it is caused by the rapid loss of fat from the face. That is part of the story. But the loss of muscle mass throughout the body, including the muscles that provide structural support to the skin and underlying tissue, is a bigger and more important part of the story that almost never gets mentioned. Ozempic face is not just a cosmetic problem. It is a visible sign of a deeper physiological process happening throughout your entire body. And the solution is not to stop taking the medication. The solution is to actively protect your muscle while you lose the fat. Part 4. So what can you actually do about this? Because that is the whole point of this video. Not to scare you, but to give you a practical framework that the research supports. And there are 3 specific strategies that make a real, measurable difference. The first and most important is protein intake. When you are on a GLP-1 medication, your appetite is suppressed and you are eating less food overall. That means you have to be deliberate and intentional about what you eat because you have less room to work with. Every calorie needs to carry nutritional weight. And the single most important macronutrient to prioritize is protein. The standard recommendation for muscle maintenance during active weight loss is at least 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. For a person weighing 70 kilograms, that is 84 grams of protein per day. But for older adults on GLP-1 medications, many researchers now recommend aiming even higher, closer to 1.5 to 1.8 grams per kilogram to offset the accelerated rate of muscle breakdown. And the timing matters just as much as the total amount. You want to spread that protein intake evenly across 3 meals, 30 to 40 grams at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This is the same principle we covered in the muscle loss video, and it applies even more urgently here because the window for getting enough protein is smaller when you are eating less food overall. A protein-rich breakfast is particularly important because your body has been in a fasting state overnight and is primed to use protein for muscle synthesis. The second strategy is resistance training, and I want to be realistic about this. When you are on a medication that suppresses your appetite and you are eating in a significant calorie deficit, you may not feel energetic or motivated to exercise. Your energy levels will be lower. That is normal and expected. But resistance training is the single most effective way to signal to your body that it needs to hold on to its muscle tissue even while you are in a calorie deficit. Without that signal, your body sees muscle as expendable fuel. With that signal, your body prioritizes preserving it because it senses that the muscle is still needed. 2 to 3 sessions per week of compound resistance exercises like squats, lunges, push-ups, rows, and planks is enough to make a meaningful difference. You do not need a gym. You do not need heavy weights. You just need to challenge your muscles consistently. And the research backs this up clearly. A study published in Obesity Reviews found that combining GLP-1 therapy with resistance training preserved lean body mass significantly better than GLP-1 therapy alone. Not a small difference, a significant difference. Part 5. The third strategy is the one that most people overlook, and it might be the most important of all for long-term health. Gradual weight loss. The speed at which you lose weight directly determines how much muscle you lose along with it. And this is where the conversation around GLP-1 medications often misses a critical point. Many people and many prescribers focus on getting to the highest tolerated dose as quickly as possible because that produces the fastest results. And faster results are more motivating. Patients stay on the medication longer. They see the scale moving, and that reinforces their commitment. But faster weight loss also means more muscle loss. That is a direct biological trade-off. A study published in the International Journal of Obesity compared groups of people losing weight at different rates. They found that slower weight loss of about 0.5 kilogram to 1 kilogram per week resulted in significantly less lean mass loss compared to faster weight loss of more than 1.5 kilograms per week. And this was true even when the total amount of weight lost was identical between the groups. The rate of loss was an independent factor. Slower loss, more fat. Faster loss, more muscle. So if you are on a GLP-1 medication, working with your prescriber to find a dose that produces steady, manageable weight loss rather than rapid, dramatic weight loss may be one of the most important decisions you can make for your long-term metabolic health. It takes longer to reach your goal weight, but the weight you lose will be composed of a much higher proportion of fat, and the muscle you keep will serve you for the rest of your life. And there is another angle to this that is worth considering. The muscle you lose during rapid weight loss is not easy to regain. Building muscle back requires a deliberate effort that many people do not make after they reach their goal weight. They shift their focus to maintenance, and maintaining a lower weight without rebuilding the muscle you lost leaves you in a worse metabolic position than where you started. You weigh less, but your metabolism is slower, your body composition is worse, and you are more vulnerable to weight regain because your reduced muscle mass burns fewer calories at rest. Part 6. Let me bring all of this together into a clear action framework, because information without action is not useful, and I want you to have something concrete to work with. If you are taking a GLP-1 medication or considering one, here is the evidence-based approach that protects your muscle while you lose the fat. First, prioritize protein. Aim for 30 to 40 grams at every meal. That means a high-protein breakfast, a high-protein lunch, and a high-protein dinner. If you cannot eat enough through whole food alone because your appetite is too suppressed, a quality protein powder can help you close the gap without feeling overfull. Second, do resistance training, 2 to 3 sessions per week. 20 to 30 minutes per session is sufficient. Bodyweight exercises, resistance bands, or gym equipment all work. The key is consistency and progressive overload. Third, consider the pace of your weight loss. Work with your prescriber to find a dose that produces steady, sustainable weight loss of about half a kilogram to 1 kilogram per week rather than rapid loss. Fourth, monitor how you feel. If you're losing strength, losing energy, or noticing that you're losing weight faster than expected, those are signals that you may be losing too much muscle. Pay attention to them. And finally, have a conversation with your healthcare provider about body composition. Ask whether they can monitor not just your weight, but the composition of the weight you are losing, because the number on the scale tells an incomplete story, and the complete story is the one that matters for your long-term health. Part 7. One last thought. The reason I made this video is not because I think these medications are bad. I think they are remarkably useful tools that are helping millions of people. But every effective tool has a learning curve. You need to know how to use it properly to get the best results and avoid the hidden costs. The hidden cost of GLP-1 medications is that the weight you lose can include more muscle than you want. But that cost is not inevitable. It is not something you have to accept passively. It is manageable. It is preventable. By being intentional about protein, resistance training, and the pace of your weight loss, you can shift the composition of your weight loss so that you lose predominantly fat and keep your muscle. And that is the difference between losing weight and losing weight intelligently. Your muscle is one of your most important assets as you age. It is the tissue that keeps you strong, independent, and metabolically healthy. Protect it. Stay consistent, and we will see you in the next one.